I always say when I put up a show, is it self-respecting? And if I find it self-respecting, and I respect it, then I'm satisfied, because you can't take care of anything else, what other people think. But I'm very strict on what I think myself. And that sort of stands you in good stead. It's back to you all the time. And you are, in the end, you're there and there's an empty space, so you're an artist. So you've got absolute jurisdiction over what you put in that empty space. Nobody's to tell you that is wrong. You should have this, you should have that. Absolute freedom, you see. That's wonderful, I think. It's frightening, but it's wonderful. Nobody expected anything of you except, I think, to be sort of docile. And the astronomy came first, and you had dinners and you asked visiting astronomers or whatnot. They never knew who you were the next day, you know, but you served the establishment, really, and it was expected of you.
How did you survive?
I made a quilt. This takes 17 years. I did a quilt, and then when I roamed the mountain, I used to find a lot of big dried Australian branches, you see, different from New Zealand. And I started making dried arrangements, and I used to bring things in and put them on the mantelpiece. People used to say, get her, look at that dirty thing she's got on the mantelpiece. That was me, you see. But I didn't want the thing you got on David Jones's escalator, and I certainly didn't want to polish my floor, which a lot of them didn't want to do. Did it? They were good housewives, you see.
And were you a good housewife?
No, I was a very bad housewife, and I hated it. And in the end, you get sort of cramped, because you really want people to like you. You want someone to like you, goodness knows. And so you find yourself sort of hiding things and conforming things. And if they should catch you with your dishes undone and your, well, it was bad. And it wasn't long after that they had what they called the Artist Choice show in Sydney, Gallery A in Sydney, and it was a case of getting established artists to pick somebody whom they thought was neglected, you see. And Michael Taylor was teaching at the art school then, and to my extreme surprise he said to me, look, I don't want to choose anybody at the art school, I want you to go in. Heavens, you know. And so I went in and I put my little group of things down that he'd chosen and crept out into Sydney, you know. And that very night I got a ring to say I'd stolen the show. And Gallery A immediately offered me a one-man show, you see. And this was very heady stuff for somebody living on Stromno, I tell you. So you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, you think, well, I've got the offer, I've got to be up to it. So I did it. And I had a successful show in Gallery A after that. And a lot of the regional galleries and even the gallery here bought things. And so I was sort of launched. And immediately after that, Robert Lindsay of Melbourne offered me a survey show. Me? Victoria? Survey? Well, I died the death, but I pulled myself up again by my bootstraps. And then very soon after that, this was breathless times, they said, you're going to Venice. Venice of me. From the sticks, knowing nothing. And so I went to Venice, you see.
How do you find your materials?
Well, what I get is a nice fine day and a car, you see, and there's plenty around in the countryside. And I used to go out an awful lot and fossick, and it didn't matter if you found anything or not, but the countryside to me was so confirming and so beautiful and so exciting, and anything could happen, you see. It's marvellous. It's a wonderful freedom. And it wasn't till I'd driven around quite a lot looking at the countryside that I discovered the country dump. Every old lady who died got thrown in the dump, more or less, and all her possessions and all her old magazines and all her everything. So I got into things, but usually weathered, battered, old things. Got life in it, you see, and what you're trying to get is vitality. It's the source of life you're trying to get in your things. This is what it's about.
So how do you decide what to use once you've got it home?
Well, you get it home and you try to give it shelter if it needs shelter from the elements. And then when the time comes, you walk among it and you think, that's nice, now I can do that with that and that with that, and put things together a bit. Mostly dependent on what Wordsworth said, emotion recollected in tranquility. Is think of something that it reminds you of, or why you like it, or whatever. And it is that Wordsworthian thing that past experiences get woven into the work. Things you've felt. Not about how it looks, it's about how you feel about it. And my aim is to get something up that I want to look at.
You were well into your 50s when an almost overwhelming success finally came to you. Was there ever any danger that success would spoil Rosalie Gascoigne?
Well, I don't know, because you always know there's something better, you see. You never think, I'm it, and are complacent about it, because you see things out there in the countryside that are better than anything you can produce. And it depends what your goals are, I suppose, and what your platform is. I'm always saying that about your platform. If you're being frightfully egotistical and thinking, I'm great and I can do this and this and this, and you turn into a factory, really, and you make the things you can make, well, this is not good enough, you've got to go on. And so many people in the art world, I think, get to a sort of peak, and they think, well, I suppose vanity enters into it, but they do what they're able to do, and what you've got to do is to pull off something that isn't in the palm of your hand before you started.